Good afternoon, everybody. We will go ahead and get started in just a couple minutes. We're about half full, so I want to give everybody a couple minutes to get in, especially since we're using a new webinar system this year. So we'll give it a couple of minutes and then we'll get started. All right. So we're going to go ahead and get started because I know everybody's time is valuable. Right now, everybody is in listen-only mode. I will open it up throughout so that we can, if you have questions, we can make sure that we get all those answered for you as we go through this. So we're going to start with going over tax law updates. Then we will transition into a couple of new things in the software that you guys might not be aware of. And then we're going to go through a full return, head of household return with a Schedule C with mileage and depreciation so that you guys get a full understanding of, how the software works for anybody who's new. For those of you that are renewed with Tax Hound, first and foremost, thank you for continuing to allow me to service your business. But if you're comfortable inside the software, then you can duck out of this when we get done with tax law updates and then what's new in the software, and then you can kind of go on your day. I did block out a 2-hour window for this just in case to make sure we had more time, but we may not need all of that. So just kind of keep that in mind. So for now, we're going to go ahead and get started on the tax law updates. So there are quite a bit of updates this year. I won't say quite a bit. There's some really big, impactful updates this year, starting with changes to the child tax credit, as well as the child independent care credit. A couple of minor changes with earned income tax credit, the 1099K, or what I call social media, the social media tax uh, viral sensation, I guess, that's going on. So be able to give you guys some further explanation on what's going on with the 1099K this year. Few annual changes, a couple other tax law changes, and then we'll be able to go forward from there. So starting with the child tax credit and advanced child tax credit, basically what is happening is in 2021 as part of any number of the COVID relief packages, they made drastic changes to child tax credit, dependent care credit. Unfortunately, those changes are only viable for a year. So following that year, we're going to revert back to what it was pre 2020, pre 2021 rather. So the 2020 rules are going to come back and be the rules for 2022. So uh, that means that child tax credit goes back to being a partially refundable credit instead of a fully refundable credit like it was last year. The credit amount drops back down to 2,000 per child. Last year it was 3,000 for children 6 to 17 and 3,600 for children 5 years old and younger for the 2021 year. So we go back to 2,000, no more 3,000, no more 3,600. The eligibility was previously under 18. It goes back to being under 17. So 16 years of age or younger. And then, as we are grateful to know, there was no monthly advance payment, so we don't have to reconcile the advance payments. We kind of go back to the software just doing what it has always done with the child tax credit without very much input from us at all on that form. The 2441 or the child independent care credit is also reverting back to its 2021 non-refundable form. Last year, it was a fully refundable credit. This year, it will go back to being a non-refundable credit. The amount of qualifying childcare expenses has also gone back to what it was, which was 3,000 for one child and 6,000 for two or more children. Last year, it was 8,000 for one child and 16,000 for two or more children. The maximum credit has gone down from 4,000 down to 1,050 for one child, and for two or more children, it is now 2,100 instead of the 8,000 that we saw last year. This is going to be a big impact on your clients because it is no longer fully refundable. Non-refundable credits can only be used to reduce tax. So if your taxpayer is already at zero tax, the 2441 will be of no help, no assistance to them. Their refund is not going to get bigger because you filed this form. For those people who have tax due, it can reduce that tax back down to zero, but that's as far as it's going to go. There won't be no increase to the refund from this being a refundable credit because it is going back to the non-refundable form. The credit rate and the income limits are increased, decreased depending on how you view it. 50% of the expenses when the AGI is under 15,000. Last year it was 125,000, so pretty much everyone was getting 50%, or a large segment of your customer base probably was getting 50%. This year it's going to be a lot less that qualify for 50%. The credit rate is going to gradually decline until it reaches 20% when the AGI reaches 43,000. Last year was 83,000, so it will go from 50 down to 20 between 15,000 and 43,000 in AGI. Then it will be 20% for everyone over all AGIs over 43,000, and there's no phase out for it. So for your higher income individuals, they can still qualify for the 2441 or child independent care credit. Slight changes to EIC. The disqualified investment income, the max amount of investment income allowed is increased to 10,300. So it's up slightly. It's not a huge change. And that's really only going to affect those people who have Schedule Ds or Schedule Es that are considered investment income, inactive K1s, things like that. Taxpayers, I don't know why this says that way. I need to adjust this. I apologize. It's taxpayers without children is reverting back to the pre-2021 form, and I'm going to give you the specifics on that. So the criteria for individuals wanting to qualify with no children, the minimum age is 25. Last year it was 19. The maximum age is 65. Last year there was no maximum age. The maximum credit has gone down to 560. It was a little bit higher than that last year, and now it is fully phased out at around 16,480 for your single filers, and your married filing joint filers, it's 22,610. The EITC max, I'm actually going to skip that one. I want to use this one. I like this this graphic a little bit better. So in the first column, you have the number of children. The second column, you have the maximum EIC credit. So the maximum for 0 is 560. The maximum for 3 or more is 6,935. Then we get into the max AGIs, and I gave you guys this information to save you time, keep you from banging your head against the wall as to why someone's not qualifying for EIC. The AGI could be a big reason, and in a lot of cases it is. So for your single filers, which that would include your single or head of household filers, the max AGIs are listed here. So it ranges from $16,480 for 0 children up to $53,057 for 3 or more. And then your married filing joint, the max AGI is 22,610 and for 0, and then for 3 or more, it's 59,187. Now, what this means is that if their AGI is above this limit based on the number of, if their AGI is above the max AGI based on the number of children that they have, they will not qualify for any EIC. So if I was married filing joint with 3 dependents and my AGI was 65,000, for example, I would not qualify for EIC at all. Okay. 1099K, this has been a big talking point that we've seen. It's starting to get back to the news. It was at the news and then it kind of went away. We're seeing it big time on social media, and there's a lot of misinformation that's being shared. So I want to kind of settle some things for you. So third-party settlement networks, companies like PayPal, Venmo, Cash App, Zelle, will be sending 1099Ks to taxpayers who were paid over $600 during the year for goods or services, regardless of the number of transactions. That is a colossal shift from what it has previously been, which was over $20,000 in payments and more than 200 transactions. So we are going to see a significant increase in the number of 1099Ks that we do get this year. Now, this change to the reporting threshold means that more people than ever will get a 1099K form next year that they will use when they're filing their tax return. Remember that the 1099K reporting is only for money received for goods and services. It does not apply to payments from family and friends. For example, if I went out with my sister to dinner and I paid and she cashed at me her half, that doesn't count. Okay. Here are the updated tax brackets. Slight adjustments. I know previously in the news we were hearing about a lot of adjustments to tax brackets and standard deductions and things like that. But what they were referring to in the news, at least recently, was for tax year 2023, not tax year 2022. So those big adjustments for inflation are not going to show up until next tax season, not this coming tax season. Standard deduction changes, again, we're seeing slight increases, nothing groundbreaking. It's pretty standard increase across the board. I did want to point out one thing here, and that's because I learned this year. I was unaware. And as I told someone earlier today, I've been doing this 20 years and you still learn something every year that you didn't know. And this is mine for this year for 2022. Married filing separate. I've got that little asterisk there, and if you look over here to the right of this screen, you will see that for married filing separately, if one spouse itemizes, the other is forced to itemize as well. If the second spouse does not have anything to itemize, all of their income over $5 is taxable. So that was an interesting little wrinkle that I was unaware of until I spoke with some people at the IRS when I was in Las Vegas attending a convention in July. So I wanted to pass that along to you guys. Expired deductions and credit. The recovery rebate credit is expired. We've been dealing with the recovery rebate credit for 2 tax seasons now. And this is the last tax season that we will have. The last tax season, rather, was the last tax season we will have to do anything to do with the recovery rebate credit. So the stimulus payments, those are done. We don't have to deal with that. The above the line charitable cash contributions, that was on the 1040. It would allow you to put a uh, charitable cash contributions for those people who were taking the standard deduction. That is currently set to expire at the end of the expire at the end of the year, uh, meaning it was not renewed for tax year 2022, at least not yet. Could it be before the end of the year? Yes, it's possible that it could be. Um, as well as the mortgage insurance premium deduction. I know I skipped one, but that's okay. The mortgage insurance premium deduction is in that same boat. It feels like every year we hear it's expired, and then somehow in December they get it renewed. So, of the things that are on this list, those are the two that may not stay on this list. I'll say it that way. The AGI limit for cash contributions on the Schedule A, um, it was 60% in the prior year. It will go back to no limit, which is what it had been previously. And then finally, we are in the final year of dealing with the COVID or disaster related withdrawals from retirement accounts. So those 8915Es that we had to deal with in 2020, the 8915Fs that we had to deal in 2021, this is the final year for it. So, for anyone who doesn't know, in 2020, taxpayers had the option of making a withdrawal from the retirement account if it was related to COVID or another disaster area. Um, in these instances, they could withdraw it without penalty, but they still had to pay the taxes on it. So the IRS allowed them to split the payment into 3 sections so that they wouldn't have to pay all the taxes in 1 year. They could pay the taxes over 3 years. And we are now in the third year of that. So if you run across that 8915F, it's going to be exactly the same as it was last year. You're going to take that money from the 2020, the amount from line 9 or line 17 of the 8915E, and you're going to report it to the 8915F, just like we did this year. So that's kind of the updates sort of in our tax law um, that we've got going on. I want to take a second and sort of pause for a second and see if there's any questions. Um, there is a Q&A section that you guys can type questions into. Um, I'm not sure how to unlock this for everybody. I apologize. This is a new system that we started using this year. Let me see if I can turn everybody on. Well, I don't know how to do that. Well, that's fun. Well, I'll just ask you guys individually. Let's see. I think I'm just going to mark all of you with the ability to talk. Give me a second. It's updating here. It'll let you know if if you're set to the computer audio. Like I think Corey, are you able to talk? I see Saida in here. There we go. Well, we got some questions, so hang on one second here. Someone asked, how will Zelle determine which transactions are business and which ones are personal? Here's a question. I don't know. That is the short answer to the whole thing, is we actually do not know how they are going to differentiate those things. So that's going to be a lot of fun in us figuring out or having to deal with. Here's the bottom line to it. If they feel like that information is invalid, they need to talk to whoever sent it to them. It's just like a W-2. If they feel like the wages are wrong, they have to talk to the employer. If they feel like that amount is wrong, they're going to have to talk to Zelle or Cash App or whoever sent them that 1099K. We can only report the 1099K that is given. And they will need to report it, is the other side. We're going to, and this is where I tell you guys, you want to make sure that you get out in front of this and remind your customers to bring all of the tax forms they receive, not just their W-2, so that we don't end up with refunds getting stuck because because they didn't give you the 1099K. Let's see. Just gonna start doing this. I don't know why this is acting this way, so I apologize for that. But I think the Q&A is probably the best way for you guys to answer the questions. I'll get some more training on this, and we'll do better next time, I promise. Okay, so I know we've got some new faces in here, which is great. I love new faces. New faces are fun. So I want to make sure that we kind of go through a couple of the changes that are in the software. If I'm being honest, guys, there's not a ton this year. Hang on, we got another question. Corey, that's a great question. Is the deadline for the 1099K January 31st also? Yes, it is. That has not changed. They are not giving them more time to process those 1099Ks. I have a friend who works for Zelle, and they're pretty concerned about it. So I don't know if they're just going to throw a blanket to everything over $600 reported, and whoever complains, then we'll deal with it. I, I, I don't feel really optimistic about what these companies are planning to do, at least not initially. So we still have a couple of weeks before things, we got a little bit less than 2 months before they absolutely have to do it. So hopefully they will get some more guidance from the IRS, and we can, get some more information about how exactly they're going to be handling these things. In terms of the software, I'm going to go ahead and close this. There are not a ton of changes, thankfully. We did update a few things, but we are also we spent a lot of time this off season sort of cleaning up some back end things, as well as dealing with those big changes in the tax code itself that we have to deal with this year. So that's been where our focus has been primarily this year. Let me go ahead and get logged in here. 550081. So for anyone who doesn't know, we are live for tax year 2022 already. That is good to go. The software is live, and we are rocking and rolling on here. So one of the things that we have added Hang on one second. I want to move this. Why is it? I am going to hide my view here. One second. I'm going to hide that video. One of the things that we added, at least right out of the gate, that you guys may have noticed already is this button up here at the top that says tutorials. Now, this tutorials will allow you to access some video tutorials that we have been creating, for example, on how to add a preparer. It will take you over to a YouTube channel, and then you will get a video on how you add preparers and where you go and what you need to do and all of those things. And this is a pretty in-depth video. So these will continue to grow, hopefully throughout the year, but there may be more as we continue to add stuff. There may be videos that we haven't posted necessarily in the link in here, but they'll be there. You can also get to this at any point by going to setup and then support and video tutorials if you can't get to the tutorials link for whatever reason. One of the other things that we changed is here in this setup, we have now given you guys the ability to upload your logo to the client portal. That is available to everyone. That's not an add-on. Like you guys may have received a text message today talking about co-branding the software. That would change this logo in the top left, and we could change the color scheme. I have it here. This has to be enabled. For example, if I wanted to change this purple, I could change this to purple. I'm going to change it back. I'm going to change it to this green because why not? If that's something that you're interested in, you can either purchase through that link or you can reach out to me directly and we'll get you set up on the right stuff there. Okay. Like I said, not a ton of changes just sort of in the software. Those are two of the biggest ones. Some of these things we've added throughout the year, so I want to kind of point out to people. I'm going to jump to the prior year just so we can take a look at one of the things in particular. One of the things in particular that we had a massive shift and a massive change on this this summer, going probably the end of the season going into the summer, was this view input button. This view input button now will give you a read-only view of the return as it was actually entered. So if we need to go in and look and go, oh, did I mark them as a dependent? Did I mark them? How did I mark them? Whatever the case is, we can go do that. If I want to go look at the Schedule C and see, okay, well, what were the expenses specifically? Did I add the mileage? Yes, I did. So all of these things can be now viewed from that view input button versus what we had previously had in the view input button. So that's a pretty big change. The practice return is also something that got added. This actually was a special request from you guys. You guys wanted the ability to, for lack of a better phrase, play around in the return. You wanted to be able to do what you wanted and not really affect the return. And so we built a way for you to do that in our online environment by building this practice return. So you can click this practice return button and you can actually create a practice return. And basically what this does is it clones the entire tax return and lets you modify to see, for example, if I want to go, well, you know what, maybe I shouldn't take that big a loss. Maybe this only needs to be 15,000. So maybe I don't take all the mileage. I mean, you're not really supposed to do this, but you know how customers go. Well, what if I didn't report all my expenses? You should. I have to say that clearly. But what if we didn't? How does that impact the return? Or what if I add this dependent or I don't add that dependent? How does that affect the return? You can see, and there's a big change in this return. Now I owe 25,000 and the net profit and loss on my Schedule C is still 0. Now, this will not translate over into you can't take this and make this the tax return. This is just a dummy environment for you to play in. And so I wanted to make sure that I pointed that out to you guys this year. The other thing, oh, that one already has it. The links for the client portal and which I don't think these things are active now. Yeah, they're not anymore. Let's see. Can I think I was in this one, wasn't I? Remote signature client portal has already moved to the current year. That's the way that always works. We did change the timeout on those links. They were 30 minutes before. They are 24 hours now. So your clients will have a little more time to actually sign up for the client portal or sign their tax return using remote signature. Like I had said before, guys, there just wasn't a ton of those kinds of changes. The only other change that I want to point out for some of you is that we did add the ability for you to use Scriptel signature pads. So that is one of those options that is there as well. You can use the Topaz signature pads as well as Scriptel signature pads. Someone had asked me previously which Scriptel pads. I don't have the answer to that just yet. So as soon as I do have the answer to that, I will make sure that everybody knows these are the Scriptel models that we support. If you have bought your Scriptel already, yikes. If you haven't, hang tight so that I can get you the right information and make sure that you get the right signature pad. So does anybody have any questions about anything that is new besides Corey? Corey, your question about the software being more compatible to mobile, the answer is still no. It is something that we are trying to figure out, but we've run into a couple of restrictions. Sharon asked if we would be able to use the old signature pads. Yes, we are still supporting the Topaz signature pads. We just added support for the Scriptel signature pads. So you can still use the signature pads you guys were using last year if you were using the Topaz signature pads. We've just added the ability for you to use Scriptel signature pads. Okay. Perfect. So we're going to go through a tax return as far as I can take you. As you guys know, well, most of you know, probably, the IRS shut down processing on November 26th. So I can show you up to the client payment piece. The client payment for 2022 is not enabled yet. But once it is enabled, then then we can go through those again. But I will show you guys from our e-learning course from last year what that bank application process looks like, what the client payment process looks like, as well as sort of giving you if you will, a little sneak preview of our e-learning course that I encourage everyone to take every year. So we're going to jump into that right now. So to start a new return, from the dashboard, you're going to go to Clients. You're going to click New Return. Now, if this return exists in the prior year, it will prompt you to carry that information forward. I am sure that this return probably exists. So we'll get to see that, and then I'll show you guys what a clean new return looks like. So here's the import. My advice to everyone is use the simple import. The simple import will pull forward all of the personal information that you need, dependent information, those kinds of things. It just won't pull out any calculations that were on the 1099s and W-2s and Schedule Cs. So those things, your assets and stuff will carry forward, just not the W-2 just won't be filled out. So we're going to do a simple import. We're going to carry this return forward. And so you'll see, I don't know why I did that. So we're going to go ahead and import this return. And then we'll be able to edit and open this return, and you'll see. So now the return is successfully imported. So now we can edit. I'm going to show you direct input because I think that's what the majority of you guys use. If someone specifically needs to see the interview mode, just put it in the Q&A and I'll show it to you, or we can get one-on-one later and I'll go through the interview mode with you. So as you see, all the information carried forward. We're going to answer the question about health insurance. Did they get health insurance from the marketplace? We're going to say no. You'll see even the opt-ins for the prior for text messaging, those are in there as well. One of the things to note in here is that if this says home, that opt-in goes away. So if you're wanting to be able to text them, you want to make sure that you put the daytime phone number as cell or the other contact number as cell so that you get the opt-ins from both. That way you can send them text messages. One of the things to note down here in the bottom, just so there's not any confusion, if they are getting their refund from the IRS, meaning they are paying you up front, if they want to check, leave the direct deposit information blank. If they want a direct deposit, fill it out. They're getting a bank product and they want a direct deposit, fill it out because it will carry forward. If you enter direct deposit information here and they end up wanting a check via bank product, or you select check on the bank product, you get a warning at the top of the screen that will tell you that those two things don't match. That you have direct deposit information on the personal information sheet. This will keep you from accidentally selecting check for someone who actually wanted a direct deposit from the bank. So we're going to go ahead and save. And I'm going to close this just so I can show you what a new return looks like. So we go clients and we go new return versus a carry forward. I want to point out something here, especially for anybody who's new. I would not adjust this select return type unless you were doing an amended or you know you're doing a 1040 NR. This piece here gets really confusing. U.S. self-employment tax income or tax return. The key piece that you want to pay attention to is this piece where it says for bona fide residents of Puerto Rico. The 1040 SS only applies to bona fide residents of Puerto Rico. It does not apply to stateside Americans. So we're going to save and continue on a 1040, and you'll see here's what it looks like. And you'll notice that everything is grayed out except the personal information sheet. So we're going to fill this out real quick. If they have an identity protection pin for the taxpayer, you would enter it here. If they're married, then you would enter it below the spouse. For this, I'll go ahead and do head of household. And as we enter the address, you'll see I skip the city and state. I go straight down to the zip code because there's a zip code database that will give you the city and state. We have defaulted, at least I have, the cell that's email address, the daytime phone number to cell instead of home. Now you can see I can opt them in for the text messaging. Now, if you do not opt them in for the text messaging button will not appear in the client manager. And I'll show you in just a second where that is. We're going to come down, we're going to save. Oh, we didn't answer that question. So now we got this red question mark. And I did that intentionally so that you guys could see that required fields on any form are going to come out with this red question mark if you click it. And then if you click on the question mark, it will tell you, please select yes or no. Okay, great. So now I can just select yes or no. Now we're able to save. Now it's going to tell us right here, and this is one of the new things we added, head of household. Head of household requires you to enter dependent details information in order to continue. If we click continue, it's going to take us over to dependents so that we can add that dependent. So we'll go ahead and add a dependent. Now down here, we default a lot of these things, primarily because we can determine that information based on the information that you provided at the top. The only thing we cannot determine is who is your head of household qualifier. My advice to you is that they have multiple dependents, put the first dependent. If they only have one dependent, obviously it's the first dependent, right? And then answer that question. You do have to make sure that you check this HOH slash QW qualifier when you are filing head of household, at least for one dependent. You don't have to answer it for all, just the singular one. So now we have our dependent added. So we're going to go back up here. And the next thing I do is I get their ID information entered into the software. So in this particular case, we're going to go ahead and say, yes, they have a Texas state ID. So we'll enter the driver's license, we'll enter the state and the number, and then we get into the dates. And you can type into these fields to get to the number that you want to get into. So you don't have to pick them from the list or scroll the way I did. You can actually type into them. Now we get into the identity verification, which is a huge mission for the IRS, is cracking down on identity theft from tax preparers or from taxpayers. This will protect you by doing this. So I advise you to do it. I would verify their identity, whether it's in person or remote. If it's in person, you get their ID, you make sure that their ID is current and that the person that looks like them. If you do it remotely, then you want to make sure that you have multiple forms of ID. You want to make sure that you have not just their government ID, but you want to make sure that you maybe have a financial account, banks, mortgage statement, school record, something that would give you a second point of reference to be able to identify them because they're not directly in front of you. Now, if you do a Zoom session with them and you have their ID and you can see their face, screenshot that just to save it for your records. But that to me counts as in person because you're looking at that person versus not. So once we've completed this, now we need income. Every tax return's got to have income or you can't file it. It's that simple, right? I'm going to stop for a second, see if there's any questions before we continue on. So I want to ask if the information on the ID is going to transfer to the bank product. Yes, absolutely. If you enter that information here and you select a bank product, it will carry to the bank product. So let's continue on. Perfect. So now we need income. So we're going to add a W-2 and a Schedule C to this particular return that we're doing. You have a couple of ways that you can add forms. You can scroll down the all forms list and actually select the form there, or you can use the search function, which is my favorite way to do it. When you just type in W-2, it'll give you all of the forms that have W-2. So we're going to select a regular W-2. We're going to hit add new. Then we're going to enter what we need to enter. You can see now we have the EIN database, so it does pull the EIN information that you may have already entered in the past. I am going to need to change this address. Then you enter in what you need to enter in. We're just going to put in 15,000. We're going to put 2635. Do a box 12. What do we see? DD quite often. And then when we get down into the states, I want to show something to you because the program will actually add states for you automatically as non-residents or states that are added at the bottom of the W-2 that do not match the resident state on the personal information sheet. So we save that W-2 and you'll see right up here in the top left, now the state of Arizona has been added. And the reason for that is if we go look at the personal information, our resident state here says Texas. So if we go look at Arizona, you're going to see that Arizona is marked as non-resident because we have already told the software that we are residents, that our taxpayer was a resident of Texas. That means if they have income tax that they need to pay or a tax return that needs to be filed for the state of Arizona, it must be non-resident. Now, it could be part year resident, and if it is, you just come in and make the adjustments that you need to make. You override the status, you select the dates, and then you allocate the income. By and large part, though, um, states pretty much take care of themselves. There's not a ton of work that has to be done on the states. So now we've got a little bit of income. We see our refund is significantly greater than the zero that we had in there before. It's about $7,000. So now we need to go add our Schedule C. So we know our taxpayer got a 1099-K and they got a 1099 NEC. Your brain's going to want to add those first because you add the W-2 first. What you want to do is add the schedule first that you're going to report those forms to. And in this case, it's going to be a Schedule C. We want to add the schedule first so that we have a place to report those forms when we do add them. And I'm going to show you what that looks like. So we're going to add our Schedule C. We're going to go ahead and search over here for Schedule C. We can add it. We're going to do Add New. We'll put something in the business. Doesn't really matter. Business code, we're going to use the pick from list, and you can scroll through here. You can see what's here. I'm picking random. Don't pay attention to what I do. Line H is where you would check if they started or acquired the business during that tax year. You want to make sure that this materially participate, this line G, it's defaulted to yes. But if they did not materially participate in the business, you want to make sure that that says no. And the reason for that is it changes everything. If you did not materially participate in the business that you're reporting a Schedule C on, the revenue or loss is either considered, the profit or loss rather, is either considered, if you participated, it is earned income. If you did not, it is unearned income. That becomes investment income. As we saw earlier looking at the tax law updates, the investment income is limited. So as we scroll down now, we get into the income section. And that's where we see the 1099 MIS, the 1099 NEC, and the 1099-K. Well, we're going to add our 1099 NEC first. So we'll go ahead and add that. Just by clicking the link, it'll take us over to the 1099 NEC. You see we put a nice red warning here that says you must create the schedule before entering the 1099 NEC. So we're going to do Add New. Get that taxpayer TIN in there. The payer's TIN, rather. And then we're going to enter an amount. Let's just do 5,000. You'll see down here in the reporting section now, this blue link, Pick from List, is now visible. So we click Pick from List, select our Schedule C that we want to report this 1099 NEC to, and click Use. Come down and save. Now, when we go back to our 1099 or to our Schedule C using filed forms, and that's where I want to show you filed forms. You click the tab for filed forms. Filed forms is everything that is attached to the return currently. All of the forms, all of the information that is being pushed to the actual tax return. So now if we go down to this Schedule C, you will see that we have a profit of $5,000 that is coming from that 1099 NEC. So let's go add our 1099-K. We're going to add our 1099-K. We're going to do it the exact same way. Click that link, click Add New, type in the name. If they've got an EIN, where is that EIN? Here it is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Filer's TIN, because it's not technically an EIN, we can't put it into the EIN database. So you will probably be filling these out quite often. So we're going to go ahead and just put Cash App. For the example, 123 West 90210. I'm a 90s kid. And we're going to put in the amount of, let's just do 700 for the sake of doing it. And there'll be other things that'll probably be on this. It's all relative to it. I'm not focused so much on the form piece, but the reporting piece. So again, we have a reporting section here down at the bottom where you're going to click pick from list. Pick from list, you select the schedule you want to report it to, you hit use, you hit save. So when we come back now from filed forms over to our Schedule C, you'll see now we have 5,700, right? So now we can move down into the expenses. I'm going to show you a couple of things here. In the expenses, these fields that have the clipboard rather, to the right of them are all manual entry fields. I can type in any amount that I want in here, or I can use the workpad by clicking on the clipboard button to add multiple things. So if we did postcards, for example, and that cost me $1,500, and I did flyers, and those cost me $200, I can itemize these things down, right? And let's say pens and 25 bucks, whatever. So we can hit save here, and you'll see that it'll auto calculate and add all those things together, and we'll get a light blue color on the field that indicates that there is a work pad. So you have itemized expenses, and if we want to see what that work pad is, we just click the work pad, and it'll show you what it is. So now we can go down, and we're going to focus on the two biggest expenses that are quite often put in here that are not manual entry. Car and truck expenses in line 9, and then depreciation. So we'll go down to part 4 to do the car and truck expenses. So we'll go down to part 4 with the vehicle information. You click add new. You're going to put the date the vehicle was placed in service. That is not 1/1 of 2022 unless they first put the car into use for business for 1/1 of 2022. Now, mileage is a little bit different this year because we had two splits because of inflation, cost of gas. We have two different mileage rates. We have a mileage rate for business miles before July 1st, and we have business miles after June 30th. So, January 1st through June 30th, July 1st through the end of the year. So, I'm going to go ahead and set some of these in here. Let's say we did 1,500 before and 2,600 after. Same thing applies to the commuting miles and the number of miles you drove for other purposes. I'm not worried about those at the particular moment. Now, you do want to answer the questions as you go through, and you'll see that the standard mileage amount calculates down here at the bottom. Well, what if I want to do actual expenses? Super easy. You click actual vehicle expenses and you type in the actual expenses that you want to report. Gasoline, oil repair, vehicle rentals, those kinds of things. So I'm going to save it just on the standard mileage rate because that is the most commonly used. So we'll save that. Then we're going to come down and we're going to look at depreciation. So depreciation, all we're going to do is click Form 4562 right here off of line 13. We're going to click Add New. I encourage you to hit Pick from List and make sure that this is the right schedule that you want. If there's only one schedule, then we default it. But if you've got a Schedule C and a Schedule E, you're going to want to choose where it goes. I'm going to bypass the vehicle information and the amortization simply because it's just not used that often in here. If you need to do the vehicles, you can do the vehicle here. But I'm going to focus on other property, and by property they mean anything. A computer is property, a printer is property, not just land. So we want to click Add New. We're going to put the description of the property. We're just going to do a laptop for the sake of doing this. And then the date placed in service. And this is where the date placed in service becomes incredibly important because you have a finite amount of time that you can depreciate an asset. For example, laptop computers can be depreciated over 5 years. Well, if I bought this laptop in 2006 and every year I have been putting 1/1 of the tax year, how long am I depreciating this asset? Well, now it's been 6 years. I'm over the depreciation. The depreciation has expired. I don't get first year depreciation every single year. So please make sure that the dates that you place in service, the dates that you enter here are correct. So in this case, I'm going to say March 4th, and we're going to do 2019. Okay. We're going to enter the amount. I buy expensive laptops, so it's 3,600. And now we get down into the property type and depreciation details. I don't know what the property type is. I don't know what the classification is. I don't know what the method or convention is, but I don't need to because we have a help me button. And if we click this button, we'll get a window that will give us the information that we're going to need. So, for example, I don't know I'm not sure what information systems are. Okay, so I can click the question mark, the gray question mark box, and get additional information. Computers, perfect. Peripheral equipment. That's going to be card readers, uh, tape drives, things like that. So no problem. I just close this out. I know I can select information systems. I can click apply and close, and you'll see that the property, the classification, the method, and convention are all complete. After that, there's some other overrides and things like this if you specifically need those. So I'm going to hit save and we're going to watch my depreciation calculate. I'm going to get $415 in depreciation this year. So we hit save and let's go check our Schedule C and make sure that that is there. So we go back to File Forms, Schedule C. And when we look, now we see our mileage, we see our advertising, and our $415 in depreciation. So it's all pretty clean right there. Everything looks good. So we've added our dependents. We've done everything that we need to do. So what are we missing? Well, let's find out. So if we scroll to the top and we hit verify, verify will give you the verification information. So I want to go fix something because I do not want to do the 8962 today. That is a pain. So we verify. So I work from the bottom up. That's just generally the way I operate. So the QBIs, because we have a Schedule C, we may qualify for the qualified business income deduction. So we're going to review and see if we're eligible. So we're going to click here to fix. It's going to take us over to the QBI. This is really easy, guys. Add new, pick from list, select our schedule, hit use, hit save. Go down to the bottom and hit save. Now if we go back to verify up here at the top, you'll see that one's gone, and now we're on to the 8867. 8867 is for paid preparer due diligence. So we're going to click add new, and you see that the credits are already added here by default. EIC, child tax credit, head of household. So you're going to answer these questions to the best of your ability. You want to make sure that you're doing the things that you're supposed to be doing. And then we get to line 5 is where we want to attach an explanation. Line 5 on this form is specifically about satisfying the record retention requirements. Did you meet the record retention requirement? You must keep a copy of your documentation referenced in 4B, a copy of the 8867, and then any worksheets of how, when, and whom you collected information from. Okay. So we want to click examples of documents you rely on. We'll give you an example of the kind of documents that you can use to determine eligibility for credits. I'm going to cheat and copy some of these. So I know I've got school records and landlord property statements for head of household and for the child tax credit. For the Schedule C, I've got some 1099s and a business license. That'll work just fine. We'll go down to view explanation. We're going to add those two in. And this is a list for you so that you know when you look at this file, hey, these are the documents that I use. So these documents should be in the file, whether you're using DM Docs, whether you're actually printing the return. These are the documents that should be there. Then you're going to answer your questions the rest of the way down. Do not follow my answers because I am not actually reading the questions. I am just guessing. The only question you absolutely want to make sure that you answer yes is line 15. Do you certify that all answers on this Form 8867 are, to the best of your knowledge, true, correct, and complete? You do want to answer this yes. If you answer this no, you're basically telling the IRS that you did not do your due diligence. Now, inside this box is where you can type any questions and the answers that they provided to you. For example, I've got a single father here. So one of the questions you may ask is, why isn't the mother claiming the dependent? She's in prison. All right, that's a good reason why she wouldn't be claiming that dependent. And so I got that information from the taxpayer, and I'm going to mark that I got it from the taxpayer, but I'm also going to check to generate the worksheet so that the taxpayer signs saying that I asked this question and that's the answer they gave me. And I'm going to show you guys what that form looks like in just a second. So we're going to save. Oop, what happens if I don't answer questions? Oh, no. Yes. No. Here we go. So now we're going to verify again. And the last thing for us is the taxpayer PIN. So we're going to do click here to update. And this is super fast, super easy. Leave this on e-file using practitioner PIN, hit auto generate PIN, hit entered by ERO, and hit save. Now, normally we would be able to complete this return, and I'm going to go back to a prior year return so that you guys can see what that process looks like. We're not able to complete returns for 2022 yet. We won't be able to do that until it opens up. Before I jump back and show you what the complete looks like, I do want to show you how to send for signature requests and then how to print the return. So we're going to go signature. I'm in an eval copy. I can't send for. Okay. I will show you in the prior year. So we'll jump back to the prior year just so I can show you guys some things. Which one? Let's do this one. Perfect. This has not been filed. Beautiful. So if I want to send for a remote signature, let's try this one. Nope, that one already did client portal on. Remote signature only available in the current year. That's okay. I will show you guys how to do that. Let's go look at the forms, and I'll show you how to email a copy of the tax return that will come back to remote signature in the client portal. So if you want to view the forms or get ready to print, you do view print. To email a customer copy, you hit customer copy and then email customer copy. Now, the emails are already encrypted when they are sent. They have a password on them, and then in the bottom of the email explains how the password is actually generated. And I'm actually going to show you guys what that looks like. So if we go over here and we go to Simple Tax, not Simple Tax, geez, Tax Hound. Let's just go. I'm going to go straight to it. If we go to elearn.taxhound.co, you will see that we have our courses here, and I'm going to go into the tax prepare course just so I can show you guys some things that I'm not able to show you in the current software. One of them is view print. And then in particular, the encrypted tax return password information. So this is the instructions, and the instructions come at the very bottom of the email, and it tells them how the password is created and actually gives them a few examples. Okay. When they're prompted for the password, after opening the PDF, they'll enter the first 4 letters of their primary taxpayer's name. If it's less than 4 letters, just use the available letters, right? So the first 4 letters of the primary taxpayer's first name, all lowercase, followed by the month, day, and year of the primary taxpayer's birth date, so their date of birth, 2-digit month, 2-digit year, 4-digit, 2-digit month, 2-digit day, 4-digit year, and then the last 4 of their social. And you'll see some examples down here at the bottom. The taxpayer's name is John Doe. The date of birth is 4/9/1983, and the social is 400/00/1001. Then the password will be John 040919831001. It's important for you to know this, because if you know this, then after you email that tax return, if your customer has opted in for a text message, you can text them what the password is. That is totally okay. The IRS is absolutely fine with that. You're just not able to send the password in the same email as you sent the original return, or send an unencrypted email. Emails sent, especially with taxpayer information, must be encrypted, which means they must have a password. Okay. In these, yeah, I can't do signatures. I was just looking at that. So I'm going to show you guys what the signature piece looks like. Where is it? Signature. So let's go to, I'm going to show you what sending a remote signature via SMS looks like. So I'm going to open this all the way up. And this is an example of what we see. So you'll start by clicking on clients. Go ahead and double click and open that client. And then you're going to click My Tax Office. And you're going to get this option here for Client Portal or Remote Signature. So we're going to select Remote Signature. We're going to hit Continue. We're going to type in confirmation of the taxpayer's phone number. And then we're going to select Send via SMS and click Send Link. Okay. Now what theirs looks like when they get it, I'm going to show you guys this. This is a quick little YouTube video that will show you what it is. I don't need the sound. I can explain it to you. So when they get the link, when they get the link, you'll see it'll look very similar to this. They're going to click the link. And it will take them over to this page. They're going to enter their first name, then their last name, then their social, and their date of birth. Once they've done that, then they will log into here, and they will get a function to view the actual tax return. They can click and view at any point on any of the blue links. Once they've done that, they're going to click I have reviewed my return and then click done. So there's a view of it. Then it will ask them if they want to sign their documents. It will take them over here, and they're just going to click start. Their button will say start, not modify. And then they'll be able to sign using their finger. If they're using a signature pad, for example, or if they're doing it via email, then they can use their mouse to actually sign. They click save, and then they mark it complete, and they're done. That's it. It's that simple. It's that fast. It's that easy. And then they can log out, and they're good to go. So the last thing I want to show you guys is the client payment piece. I'm going to show you processing a bank product in particular. Actually, I want to show you completing a return first. So here's verifying and completing a return. Let's do this one first. Then, since I can't show you that. So we went through the verification, so I'm skipping through some of these. But once you've verified everything, then you want to click complete. And then you'll get these options. You want to make sure that you mark the return complete and mark the return reviewed. Make sure that that's electronically, and then click Save and Redirect Manage Returns. That's it. Mark your return complete is very easy, very simple. Then you get to the payment. And so we can go to Client Payment, and I'm going to show you guys how to process a bank product in particular. So you'll click, once you have marked the return complete and reviewed, then you're going to come in and you're going to click Start Payment. The tax return must be marked complete to enable client payment. If it is not marked complete, this option will not be there. It will be grayed out. So we're going to click. Then we click Add New Invoice. You select Banking, Continue, and then you select the disbursement type. Check, direct deposit, go to bank. You can add audit protection, state refunds, but we're just going to focus on check and audit protection. And then save and continue. And then you're going to continue to fill out the information that's missing, right? You'll see that the driver's license information that I had in that particular return did carry forward. We just need to mark that they're a citizen. And then we need to type in some missing phone numbers that I did not have. You can determine whether they opt in for text messages, what they want emails. And then that very last question down here at the bottom, you want to make sure that you answer that you have personally examined their unexpired government issued photo identification. Once you do that, then you can click that, click Save and Continue. And now you can see all of these things. Now you can click these documents and view them, and you can print them now, or you can wait and save them, have them signed and printed at the end with the final return. And that's it. That's how you complete a return. And transmitting a return is even easier. Once you've completed the return, then you just click transmit now, select it, and you hit transmit now. That's it. Very simple, very easy process to go through. Again, for those of you that have used this software, you guys know exactly what I mean. For those of you that are new, I promise you it's not hard, and we can get you through all of it with no trouble. So does anybody have any questions over what we went over today? Is there anything you want me to show? Is there anything you want to see? Is there anything I can do to answer any other questions? Okay. If you guys have any questions, if something comes up later, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. You can email, you can call, you can text. There is one other thing that I do want to ask from you guys this year. I'm going to send an email out this weekend, probably maybe Monday. Um, Give me one sec. I don't want this in the recording. Can I stop this? Yeah.